property lines and flood zones, okay? When, just like you said, that's a joke. Y'all are not, because you don't have any training in that area at all. And that's not your fault, it's the board. You know, the board should have this training, it should be mandatory. In fact, that's what I get in a lot of the classes, the little questionnaire they fill out. They said this should be required every 2 to 3 years for agents to take a class like this. You know, it doesn't have to be my class. But, and if you do understand these things, the better you can do what you do. And it's all about working efficiently. You know, I'm not talking about wasting your time and having a knowledge, getting outside of your lane. I'm talking about things that if you're selling real estate, they're only buying 2 things, right? A house and a piece of property. But usually when they walk into that closing, for the average agent that doesn't have this training, they really, a lot of times they don't have a survey. I mean, they just don't, you know, because you can't force them to get them, you know, because you're not, you know, you don't have that passion about trying to twist their arm to get those surveys a lot of times. So that's part of what I teach, is to have that passion to twist that arm a little bit harder to see if you can make them get a survey. And if you understand surveys, you can work more efficient. Instead of looking at a piece of property like this one, this could be a piece of property that'd be great for a pool, but a lot of agents would look at it and they'd say, oh no, there's no way you can get a pool here, you know, when really you could. And if you can work more efficiently with these survey related issues, by the time I'm done with you in 3 hours, you'll get it. I promise you, you'll get it, you know. And a lot of times I scare you to death. And that's part of it, that heightened sense of awareness and to work more efficient. That's what it is as an agent. So you're not wasting time showing a property that's going to have a potential issue with it. So what does Phil say? Okay, so property lines and flood zones, 0 about training. So we know that. All right, so if you look at this, here's an example of one we've done recently. Now these are all pretty recent examples. And we might ask this appraiser over here, got a piece of property like that, and you're trying to sell it. What's wrong with this particular picture? Y'all tell me, what's wrong with this? This is a recent one we're done. In fact, it's on the market now if anybody's interested. These are all real life stories. So this is like welcome to my world, guys, okay? All right, here we go. Let's look at it.
The house is
Yeah. Okay. This whole area, here's your property line, right? This whole area is encroaching onto somebody else's property, okay? And I talked to the agent about it, and he said, well, and she said, actually, she said, well, the guy that's selling it, he said that he thought that was no man's land back there. Yeah. He assumed nobody owned that back there. He didn't know there was a problem for sure, but he never had a survey. No lie. And so, it was, get this y'all, it was $177,000 is what they spent on that backyard entertainment area. It's incredible. It had a slide going down into the pool, had an outdoor, the spa was detached and it was, you know, hovering up over this huge rock walls everywhere. It had a barbecue grill, you know, an outdoor kitchen, all that was built back there and a bunch of rock back there. So it was $177,000 he claims. It was built 10 years ago. It's been sitting there for 10 years like that. How they got it permitted, I'll never know.
How did they get title?
This is actually in Sandy Springs. Well, they didn't have a survey. So here this guy is, but the guy that was buying it though, he was from Miami. And in Florida, a survey is required. And this guy was actually in the mortgage business. Pretty smart, savvy guy. His name's Jeff also. And Jeff says, hey, I just ordered the survey automatically. I thought, you know, you had to have a survey. I'm not sure if his agent pushed it or not. Come to find out, you know what that property was sitting on? Georgia DOT right-of-way that they did never use it. The Georgia 400 right-of-way, that's in Sandy Springs, was way back here, about 300 feet away, but the state of Georgia still owned it. And so he said, well, the seller says, well, we'll just buy that property from the state DOT. Okay? Yeah, that didn't go so fast, you know.
Let me interject something.
So, but it might take, you know, 6 to 9 months to do it.
Al, would you, if you got a survey and knew that the Georgia Highway Department was back there, would that affect you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, that's a major detriment.
Even if there wasn't encroachment, which I'm sure would deduct from your value also.
Well, the fact that you've got a structure built on someone else's property.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you imagine, you just bought it, and the state comes in and makes you tear it out. It's probably $30,000 to $40,000 just to tear it out. Then to rebuild that, you're talking about, you know, you could build a little tiny pool, you know, maybe something a little bigger than a hot tub.
Jeff, doesn't
really
a pool company have to have a survey with a permit?
You would think. I don't know how
How
that
do you
got
get a
by.
permit?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a darn nice pool. It was beautiful. I saw the pictures of it.
Yeah, you're probably.
All right, here's one. What's wrong with this picture, you guys? These are all little ticks, little pop ticks. Who can read this one? What's wrong with it? You see the house, right? And this one's still on the market. I guess I can talk about this one too. This one, they had 3 contracts on it. And I'm not going to give away too many names. You know, I white out the names here to protect the innocent, right?
What is that? I can't read what that line is. Is that dotted line?
This right here?
Yeah.
Oh, you're so smart. See, she's been to one of my classes, guys. That's the problem.
Is that a
That's the
sewer?
reason it's a drainage pipe.
Going through under their house?
Under the house?
Or does it go through their living room?
Let's see. I'm not sure what part of the house that is. But yeah, what it was it's a storm sewer pipe, and nobody could see it. We didn't locate it. We couldn't see it. We're not subsurface locators, so we couldn't find it either. But I was checking this one, and I was fixing to send it out. I was fixing to email it out, and I happened to notice on the 1950 recorded plat from the 1950s, it had a little faint line on there. You could barely see it. It said approximate location of 18-inch pipe. And so I kept looking at it with a magnifying glass, and I said, God, I got to show this. You know, I got to disclose it. And so it hit the fan. As soon as I showed that, I sent that survey out, and went, man, my phone blew up. I mean, people were mad. The guy that owned it didn't get a survey, but he said, look, this property's been bought and sold 10 times. It was an old house. I mean, it's been sitting there since probably, you know, the late 50s. The plat was done in 1950. But they tested it, and they finally come to the conclusion that, yes, that pipe is there, and it was shown on that old recorded plat for a reason. It's there. And so they had 3 contracts on it. Nobody could buy it. Nobody could close on it. Finally, somebody came along and offered cash after they lowered the price by $100,000.
Wow.
Still couldn't sell it.
So is that the deal blowing up there?
Yeah, that's it, Jim. That's it, buddy. Good night. That's it. But yeah, so this is, again, welcome by world. Yes.
Going back to your other one, isn't the house built over the setback lines, the other one with that issue? Because that also is built.
Oh, the other house that we went back, yeah, that was probably, yeah, it was over the building line. You're right, yeah. All right, so let's see what else we got here. I mean, these are just things that we deal with, and you know, a lot of agents don't see enough of this, I think, you know. All right, so here's one. I think is that yours? Okay, so here's one. What's wrong with this picture, you guys? This is a cluster home. 90% of the people are not going to get a survey on a cluster home, okay? You know, they don't have building lines. It's just, it does have a postage stamp of a lot, but that's it, you know. Here's your property lines, okay? There's your little house, and it was still under construction. We were out there nailing the, you know, they were nailing in the final trim work boards and painting and all that stuff when we were there. But it was finished on the outside. So we go out there and survey it, and we found a problem with it. Here it is. The house is actually over the property line. Now, would that be a problem for the appraiser? Yeah, okay. That's a big problem. On brand new construction.
Can I jump in real quick and just say something?
Sure.
We're basing a lot of our information on tax plats, and y'all know you don't get any detail on tax plats. So if I don't have a survey, I'm running blind as you are.
Do you ask for a survey?
Huh?
Do you ask for a survey?
Don't ask for a survey. That's the lender or the borrower's responsibility.
Oh, I know, but it helps you.
If I can find it in George Court's cooperative, I will dig it up. But no, I don't ask for a survey unless there is a. I mean, if there was a definite problem, FHA if it was FHA in particular, then they're going to probably require a survey.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I may not know that there are encroachments. Because I can't visualize always where those pins are, or where that line is relative to the improvement.
I don't understand how the builder couldn't see that he's.
Well, what happened was they just closed on this one, y'all. This is kind of an interesting story. Watchman Nowak just closed on lot 38, the lot behind it, right? 2 weeks earlier. Watchman Nowak calls me when it hit the fan and says, look, we just closed on that one. We had a clean survey from the developer, actually, which I was kind of shocked at that. And the developer, their surveyor is a really well-known survey company, but they do more engineering work. They don't do the same kind of stuff we do. We don't get involved in construction stuff normally, unless we're coming in to do a final as-built survey for this. But the reason she ordered the survey from me is because we were $150 cheaper than the developer survey. That's the only reason. We won by default on that thing. And otherwise, they would have sent a clean survey because they had just sent this one in, you know, with no problems on it. And they just, you know, they called me up and said, look, y'all messed up on your survey. And boy, I was nervous. I was afraid that we messed up. Got a phone call a couple hours later saying, don't bother to go back out there. That survey company went out there, they realized they missed it. You know, none of us are perfect. But yeah, I was shocked at this agent that had been to one of my classes, by the way, and she said, I'm not going to a closing without a survey from now on. Doesn't matter what it is. You know, she just changed her way of thinking, and all of a sudden she's protecting her clients like no other agent typically is going to do. So I'm really impressed with her. And she was pretty amazing today. I think she ought to give herself her pat. In fact, she's sitting right there. Just say it, you know, that's pretty good. All right, so here you go. Here's one. Okay, this is the old part of Atlanta. Okay, this is where we look at the survey, look at the deeds, right? We look at the pins on the ground, all the improvements, and then we look at that and compare it to the deed. And this is not a lot in a subdivision. Most of the problems we see are just lots in a subdivision where everybody assumes you don't need a survey. Here's one in an old section of Atlanta, and it was really originally surveyed back in 1905 in Eastern Park. Okay, and so according to the deed, the latest deed, look up at the screen, you guys. All right, so according to the latest deed, okay, it's the one in red. Okay, so the deed of record that they're going to use at closing and that they had used at the previous closing without the survey was this red line going there. I send this over to Whitwood. Whitwood checks the title on it and says, look, I think I could get a scrivener's error or a corrective deed to fix this. And that's why he had to show the survey the way we did. And he did. He got a corrective deed because a long time ago, years and years ago, they had fixed this. They realized it was a problem. They fixed it because the property line went through the house. And so they fixed that. And the only way they would have known, the closing attorney would have known, because they don't know, they don't have pictures to see unless they've got a survey at closing to see what the heck's going on. So they fixed this. So you can do the same, you know.
How did they fix it? Did they buy it?
They got a scrivener's error or corrective deed, I'm not sure which, but Whit checked into it. But he was confident he could go back to the previous owners and get them to do the scrivener's error.
If the contract suggested that they were trying to sell the whole thing and it was understood and maybe there's some other keys in there, then they could say, they could go back in some of those promises that we make and they could say, well, you know, this was intended, even though that they used the incorrect legal description.
Yeah.
So those contracts are so important
Yeah.
with stuff like.
Just to interject something, that's the voice of a closing attorney, by the way.
I know, I'm like sweating looking at it. It's like a horror show.
And jump in anytime.
I have a question.
Yes.
In Fulton County in particular, on Realist you have a site square footage, and then on the plat itself it has a different square footage sometimes, or different acreage. Which one tends to be more accurate?
Whatever we find. Once we survey it, yeah.
Do you find
We'll
that
check
one
it.
is more reliable than the other?
As far as the acreage,
The acreage?
usually on the recorded plat, you're going to have
The
something.
plat's going to be more.
Yes, yeah, it should
more
be
accurate?
a lot more accurate.
All right.
Because that stuff from the county is just, you know, somebody
Somebody's
making
sending
minimum
that
wage.
entering stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
it's-
Cobb
it's-
County is a nightmare.
Yeah, they're
Anything
working.
built before 1962 goes in and the set record is .23 acres.
Yeah.
And if it's zoned R20, it's 20,000, one unit per 20,000 square foot. So I know it's
Cobb is
wrong.
awful.
But, so I have to go in and figure out the square footage for every comparable property based on the length times foot measurement.
Cobb would be a nightmare, because at least Fulton and DeKalb and Gwinnett, most of them list the acreage, but in the websites, you can barely, get acreage at all.
Yeah, it's
Cobb.
tough.
All right, so here's one, you guys. What's wrong with this one, y'all? Test. These are all series of pop tests, okay? So just see what's wrong with this particular picture. You see the house, and this guy was buying his dream house here, okay? This thing had all kinds of stuff on it. This lady that owned it had already sold this, or apparently had this under contract, and she was moving to Florida. But if you look at this, it had a pond, it had brick walls everywhere. It seemed like there was 3 ponds. Oh, there's another pond over here. And then there's even a chicken coop for those fancy designer chickens, you know, that you've seen on HGTV. So apparently she built everything she'd ever seen on HGTV on her property. Pretty impressive. It was a cool place. I mean, it was really cool. Okay.
So what is the line?
What line? You mean
Right.
that line? Oh my God, yeah, that's a problem.
It's a chicken.
In fact, that line caused Whitwood, the attorney on this one, to send an email to the buyer. So unfortunately, you will not be able to obtain a loan for this property. Because that right there.
What is
Even
it?
though he's buying his dream house. Well, you'll have to come to my class and I'll tell you.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
Dandy with glass.
It's a sewer line, guys.
Because
It's
they
a
look
green.
different every time.
Yeah. it's-
Jeff, there's this old tale you probably know.
What's
There's
that?
a house downtown Atlanta where an Atlanta sewer went right underneath the house and they had to repair it.
Oh, there's a
And
ton.
they dug out the house.
Yeah, yeah. people would be surprised. It depends on the size of the pipe. Sometimes they can jog, if it's a little pipe, they can jog it and go around it, but that's kind of rare in Atlanta because those are big pipes in the city of Atlanta typically. All right, what else we got? Okay, here's one that was under contract 3 times.
Oh, my goodness.
Never sold, couldn't sell. Couldn't get a loan. Setbacks. Yep, you got it. That one little corner of the house, this lady had this house custom built for her. And how the builder got it set over there, I don't know, because look how big the lot is.
I know.
Poor shot.
Apparently he needed a certain kind of survey before he got the final. He needed a certain kind of survey, and if you come to my class, you'll learn what kind of surveys that would be. There's 7 different types of surveys, you guys, okay? We don't have time to go into that today, but there's 7 different types of surveys, and if you know them all, this helps you as an agent, makes you better, smarter, and react better to situations like this, and it helps you talk to your clients and to a builder, so you wouldn't need to be afraid to go up to a builder and just talk to them about things, easements and surveys and building lines. Y'all need to know those things because it just, again, makes you more efficient, it really does.
You need a foundation survey.
Perfect, you knew it, you've been there, yeah. Foundation survey would have saved all this grief and headache, and this lady tried to sell this for 1.5 years. It was in Forsyth County.
What I'm seeing here, by the way, is that not only do you want a survey for the buyer buying the property for themselves, but if there's a problem that's not uncovered until they are now the seller, now they got a big problem.
Yeah.
So they're solving 2 problems by getting a survey up front.
Yeah, in fact, Jim, you might want to get a survey on this place.
You got a recommendation?
Red flag,
Yeah.
red flag.
I'm just saying, that way if there is any issues and when that pool thing comes up, if you have a survey, no kidding. I have some agents now that when they're doing high profile properties like this, they get that survey right off the bat.
What would a survey on this cost?
A bunch, okay?
What do you think?
You can pay it instead of having.
I don't know.
Ballpark.
If you get your card drawn, it'd be high falls, okay?
I don't have my card in there.
But put your card in, Jim. Now's your opportunity.
Get the back half.
Yeah. All right, so what's wrong with this picture, you guys?
We can't read the words.
Now, you, listen, you're gonna like this one, because listen, they closed on this one.
It's
Or
built across
she
somebody's
closed on
property.
it, and she owned it for 2 years. Didn't know there was any kind of problem, okay? And the only reason she got a survey was because the county commissioner said, hey, this little structure you built back here, it's in the stream buffer. It's the only reason she got this survey. The survey took us a week to do at least. I mean, it was a back and forth thing, but it was a $2,000 survey. It was a mess because of the title part of it. It was so bad on this one, it was the title really. And we couldn't figure out where the deeds were. Nobody knew, what was what. And these old deeds were so old that nobody knew what was really accurate.
Which lot is the house on?
So here you go. Here's what she actually bought.
She bought 6.
She
She bought lot 15. That's what she closed on. And it was panic time. Let me tell you. I'm just telling you. So she did own a nice driveway and part of a carport. That's all she owned, technically.
Jeff, you're getting all tech savvy on
This, I'm impressed.
I am impressed.
This lady, actually, believe it or not, got the survey because she thought she had a stream buffer problem. How many of you guys know about stream buffers? Okay, you're learning. That's pretty good. Well, the guys that said you were in my class, that doesn't count.
I live in Mountain Park.
Oh, okay.
That's why.
There you go. But so what it is that she got this survey, didn't even have a clue she had a problem, but she had a huge problem because the guy that owned this property was David Barker. That's who owned her lot, and nobody knew it. I don't know if he even knew it. And get this, the strangest part of this story, you guys, this lady worked for a real estate closing attorney. Named Andy. I've known Andy for 20-something years. He's semi-retired. He was out of town when this whole deal went down. But, without the survey, she wouldn't have known. He wouldn't have known. Attorneys don't know. You would have never known that house was not on that lot unless you've got a what?
Survey.
Yeah.
So how do you
fix that?
I don't know. I guess maybe we need to find out what David Barber wants, as a bride.
What he wants for that house.
Yeah. Maybe find out what kind of truck he wants. Go buy him the nicest Ford pickup truck, put a big red bow on it. I don't know. That'd be a suggestion. I'm just saying. And they're still working on this one, you guys. In fact, there's an attorney working on this one. Do you know Janet Todd?
I do.
DeMint Carroll?
Yes.
They handle, DeMint Carroll, you guys, they handle stuff you don't want to know about. You know what they handle? real estate litigation. If you know that, it's not a good thing, I'm just saying, you do not want to know to meet Carol, I'm just telling you.
So would title insurance cover that?
Well,
Yeah,
that's funny, well, here's the deal,
Yeah, I'd be curious.
I'm actually doing a little class on Wednesday, if you guys want to come next week, but there's just a little section about this, and one of the things that's happening, a couple of things. One is that the title insurance companies are, if you get that enhanced, they enhance the fancy insurance versus the regular insurance. If you get the enhanced title insurance, that document says, we will insure everything. If you don't have a survey, we'll insure as if you did. So if this happened and they had this situation, they had insurance, then the title insurance is going to get in. Now how quick, that's good, right? That's good because they would be insured. But at the, but
Keyword.
exactly, that's going to take forever. They do not move fast, these
Yeah.
title insurance companies. So that's the main thing that concerns me is because I'm hearing a lot of people saying, you don't really need one anymore, nobody's getting them anymore. I literally got one last week, and I copied it, I printed it, and I put it in my little file because it's like making me pass out. The other problem is that in the warranty, in the deeds that in the contracts now, they changed it so that the seller conveys with a limited warranty deed, not the old-fashioned warranty deed that's forever and ever and ever. So now it's carved in. So let's say she bought this like this. She wasn't smart enough to figure this other problem. She sells it to somebody else, and then they sell it to somebody else or whatever. There's no, who do you sue? Who do you sue? So it's a mess basically. It's getting the surveys, the 600 or 650, whatever it is. On a normal, this would be more expensive, but is so much worth
Well, the
it.
thing is you could maybe get it
And
fixed
get title,
eventually,
the
but
best
how many years
insurance.
would go by before that got taken care of? Because they've got to get somebody to sell property that he may not want to sell, He may say, well, I got access to the lake, it's not landlocked, I can come into my property from the lake and, because it was a beautiful lake back there, it was really pretty. All right, what else have we got? I know I got some more scary ones for you guys somewhere. Let's see, what have we got? Oh, okay, here's one. Okay, so here's one in the Ainsley Park area, you guys. I think this one's still on the market too, if anybody's interested. This lot, and I may get in trouble for some of these because, but the names are whited out, okay? So y'all pass that along if somebody knows which one this is. In fact, I was doing a class not long ago, they go, I know exactly which house that is, and I'm telling on you. No, they said they wouldn't tell. Okay, so, but this was, what would you guess this lot would be worth? What do you think? It's got a one-story frame house on it. It's about 3/10 of an acre.
In Ainsley.
Million.
Yeah.
1.24 is what she asked for. $1.4 million for a tear down. 3/10 of an acre lot, okay? So we do the survey, all right, what's wrong with the survey? What do y'all see that's wrong with this thing?
There's too many
It
lines.
was under contract, too many times.
I can't even
You need a magnifying glass?
Definitely.
Oh. All right, so I got a call from the agent. I was very impressed with this agent. This agent called me back before I had a chance to call him. He called me back. He said, hey, what's up with this blank? He knew, and I was shocked because that's very impressive because most people are not going to know what the problem with this one was. Let me show you. What's up with this sewer line headed for the house? We didn't know where it was going. We couldn't tell. It didn't show up on any City of Atlanta sewer map. No, nobody had any reference of it at all. In fact, the City of Atlanta said it wasn't even there. So they call a subsurface locate company and they say it's going to be $5,000 to locate the sewer line because they couldn't find it either. They didn't know where it was. The manholes were like almost a mile apart. And so this was a big trunk line. Come to find out, they finally got somebody 6 months later, and this is just recently, so this has been going on. This has been a nightmare for this particular agent. I mean, a nightmare. But they finally got somebody to come out and locate it, and guess where it's going? They missed it by about that much, okay? So if you extend that straight on out, what is that going through? Going through that buildable envelope is what you call it. A buildable area for that $1 million house is going to be built on that property. So if you just bought it for $1.4 million and you can put maybe a nice, what, mobile home on it? Maybe a nice double wide if you're lucky, but you're not getting a multi-million-dollar house on that after you paid $1.4 million on it.
So that's going to affect the appraisal, I guess.
I bet it will.
I mean, you're looking at pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can they not move the sewer line?
Oh,
No.
yeah, you want to pay for it.
I get it. People are doing it.
I'll tell you what, it would cost more than the lot would be worth to do
Yes.
that sort of thing. I'd be willing to bet, yeah.
It's just turning into a nice
Like,
park.
really?
That's right, sell it to the city.
That's right.
It might be.
Put a nice park bench and some trees, little doggy park, perfect.
So keep in mind, guys, your time is valuable, and the more you know about what we do, the better you can do what you do, and be more, you can be more effective, more efficient. That's what this is all about, is efficiency. And so I'm not trying to add more complications to what y'all do. I'm just trying to make you to where you have a heightened sense of awareness, and you can just right off the bat say, well, there's a building line problem here. I'm familiar with this. Your clients pick up on the fact that you're confident and that you understand these things, and you can move forward at another pace, and you can maybe run circles around the average agent that doesn't know anything about surveys, because the average agent just doesn't. I mean, that's a fact, and that's what I like to do, is change that. You know, that's what I'm working on. I've been doing that for a few years, and so I enjoy my little 3-hour CE classes. I don't know why. It's just what I do. But I do say, I'll tell you this, is that I can help you for free. I mean, you know, if you ever have a problem or some kind of issue and you're not sure about it, you just say, well, yeah, something doesn't look right. I think I'm going to call that crazy guy, Jeff McClung. I heard about. And so call me, and I'll pull up the information. I can pull the subdivision plat for you. I can look at, you know, potential easement issues, floodplain issues, stream buffer issues. Jim had already been talking about this one, and we think we're good. You know, so we learned something on this property today. But we don't know for sure.
For a survey.
Yeah. Jim paid me to say that, by the way. But I'm pretty sure that this one will be okay. So we just need to get that survey. So yeah, that's what it's all about. So I'm done. I'll probably get in the hook about now. But listen, anytime y'all need me, call me, okay?
Jeff, did you leave cards or something?
I don't bring cards with me.
Jeff, what's your
Okay,
phone
you
number?
got your
Yeah,
What's your phone number?
770.
All of you are going to get an email with a link to him, to Alan, to Jennifer,
770-434.
and coincidentally a link to this house.
3383.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
Come on now. And one of these days, it's going to really save you.
Yeah, good.
And you're on the line as much as your buyer.
It does protect you guys, these surveys do.
Exactly. Alan Daniel, I wanted him to come because we have an unusual property here, and I wanted him to tell you a little bit about what goes into valuing an inverted branch.
Well, can I start with the survey thing?
You can do anything you want. The
We
floor is
sold
yours.
800-acre piece of property last year, a family piece down in Burke County, and the survey was done in 1954. It was off by 25 acres. We took a $30,000 haircut when the seller got a new survey. So surveys are very important, no question. Jim asked me, does having a survey add to the value of a house? I would not be able to put a monetary amount on a survey, but it definitely adds to the awareness of lot lines, flood zone, things of that nature that we cannot get off of plats. So it's very beneficial to us to know the square footage and the approximate location of the dwelling and the other improvements on the lot. So it's a big, big help. And I think you guys would all be advisable definitely to have it done, especially in Cobb County. Cobb County drives me nuts.